be careful what you wish for. The prices will rise, and the biggest money in the world is accumulating it. The fact that it hasn't risen yet, look, this is a very high-stakes game and one with very high-stakes outcome. I think mathematics and economics and logic will catch up to the price. We have been seeing some very interesting things in silver, especially in the ETFs. And we've been seeing the amount of silver going into the silver ETF, the largest silver trust in the world, SLV, continue to rise. And one of the things that rumor is, anyway, and I like to quite often read Ted Butler and his work on the COMEX to get a viewpoint of what he sees coming. And one of the things that he talks about is that he believes that there is a big trader or traders who are purchasing SLV and then redeeming those shares, converting them into physical metal, which is legal, but it's to avoid share ownership reporting requirements. In other words, some of these very, very large institutions who are considered authorized participants, instead of buying silver COMEX contracts and taking possession of them, which is then reported on the COT report, Commitment of Traders, they are able to buy huge amounts of SLV and then draw it down out the back door through share redemption, and it's not reported. It's an interesting perspective, one that would make a good deal of sense if someone was trying to maintain anonymity. But for what it's worth, this is something that both he and I think is probably happening. With what's happening in the gold space with that massive 40,000 contract position, one of the largest long positions the COMEX has ever seen in the managed money category. I will bet dollars to donuts that they do take possession at the end of the year. So from a standpoint of looking at the positioning of the biggest traders, it's a little more quiet than we've typically seen. You have to dig a little deeper and look a little closer to see what is actually happening. You know, when you take a look also at what's happening in the economy, you see, growth is decelerating sharply. In fact, it was 7% growth in Q2 down to 2% here in Q3. And as we've been talking about again for the last year, talking about stagflation, where you see little or no economic growth characterized by, higher prices. And look, you got inflation that's been raging for almost a year now, and the Fed has done nothing about it. They keep talking about, we're going to tighten and we're going to, take action against inflation by tapering. Well, they haven't done anything about it. In fact, all they do is keep calling it transitory. And I think that is, this is a problem. And because, look, the truth of it is that what can they do? We might see some sort of a token 0.25% or 0.5% increase in rates, but any meaningful raise in rates, bring it up to a 4 or 5% average that we've seen forever. You're talking about the Federal Reserve bankrupting the Treasury and triggering a U.S. government default on its debt. Are we in a catch-22 as a country? Can they raise rates? I would argue not. And yet, at the same time, we see the government, I don't know if you want to call it cannibalizing business, but certainly in the midst of what appears to be a massive labor shortage, talking about people being forced to be fired, 90 million people due to vaccine status. So on top of raising taxes, anti-competitive regulations and health policies, making it difficult for a business to invest in productivity. And be careful what you wish for. The prices will rise, and the biggest money in the world is accumulating it. The fact that it hasn't risen yet, look, this is a very high-stakes game and one with very high-stakes outcome. I think mathematics and economics and logic will catch up to the price. I think when you put it all together, this is the recipe for stagflation. Rising prices, rising taxes, coupled with little or no economic growth. I want to address two things. First, I want to address the context of our conversation. Context of our conversation was that there are some people who will listen to our weekly podcast and say there is no silver shortage. That's not true. And I asked you, what do you think? And you told me that you buy it whenever you can. You've been around this block now for over a year. You see how difficult it is to get, how fast supply dissipates. Wisdom comes with age and experience. And I'm telling you, it bothers me when people say those things, because the one thing I try to come across is candid and honest. And it's what I hang my hat upon. I guess you can't make everyone believe your sincerity, but anyways, for what it's worth, I think it's the biggest challenge of my career, and I think it will ultimately identify my career in terms of it being very difficult to get product before this is all said and done. Now, as far as why I focus on the big guy, because of the counterintuitive nature of the price, I look at the actions of the biggest players in the world as being very revealing as to the true nature. Why are the biggest players in the world accumulating the amount that they are? That, to me, is why I focus on it, not to detach myself from the people I talk to every day, but rather to reinforce my ultimate belief that price is misdirecting the public. Because if things were as reflective of the price in terms of demand with the biggest money in the world, I would have less conviction that I'm right. I believe to my soul that I am right. When you see the biggest money in the world doing what they are doing, using price to misdirect people and information, while at the same time literally accumulating government-sized hoards of metal, I believe I'm right. And you wouldn't see this kind of action with the biggest money in the world if it weren't very important. But you're right. I mean, I talk to people every day, and it's not to hold myself to a higher level of talking about really wealthy people buying metal. It's that the biggest money in the world is always ahead of the smaller money, because they are closer to the information. And if the big money gets the information and makes the move using price as a tool of misdirection, which is what I believe they are doing with all of the repatriation of metal, with all of the acquisition of it, and the great lengths at which they're going to blur, whether it be through exchange for physical on the London Metals Exchange, whether it be backdooring metal out of the ETFs, take your pick. They're going to great efforts and great lengths to hide what it is that they're doing. So, yeah, you're right. I mean, it comes down to the person on the street, and that's why I come out here and stand on a limb. I don't see many other people in my position doing what I'm doing, and I stand out on a limb and tell you this is what I believe, and I take the criticism and the heat, and there are a lot of people who say thank you for what you're doing. I appreciate it. But it's because I believe in helping as many people as possible. And when I say little people, I'm one of the little people. You're one of the little people. We're all little people, unless you're a commercial bank or a central bank or one trader who has enough money to post a $330 million margin account before maintenance to control $7+ billion worth of gold. To me, that is where the clues lie. If it were so bad and the price was not moving and it was such an archaic relic, then why would someone with that kind of wealth do what they are doing? Why would we see 300 million ounces taken off of COMEX in silver last year, and probably more this year by this group of traders? Why would we see central banks repatriating their money, their metal, and commercial banks buying it? It's the why, and it's what the big money is doing that gives me confidence this is where things ultimately will go. They wouldn't be doing what they're doing if it weren't the case, is why I focus on that.
Before we continue, help us clicking that YouTube like button and subscribe now to our channel. This shows the algorithm that you valued this information, and it helps us spread that message. Sharing is caring. And now, let's continue.
Do you want to know one thing about crypto? I made over 3,000% in profit in a few weeks. Fact is, the traditional financial system, the traditional money system makes you poor, not rich. If you want to earn $500,000, $1 million, you have to wait until you're 50, 60, 70 in the traditional financial system, and you probably will still be broke. And you will be old. This is not a sexy combination, as you can imagine. But the question is, how can you start in crypto and make these profits? Where to invest? Where to start? My name is Gunnar and I'm from Germany, as you can hear, and things are a little bit different in Germany. More about that later on. Fact is, there are lots of different cryptocurrencies. It's a gigantic universe where beginners and professionals get easily lost. But there is light at the end of the tunnel. There are 7 key steps you need to follow to become successful in this market. You have to know them, and if you fail one of them, it's literally impossible to succeed in this market. Just an example, one of the key points is your exchange, and one of the biggest are, for example, Binance and Coinbase. These are trusted and well-established exchanges, but, and this is a big but, you won't find the super profitable coins on those exchanges. The unknown super profitable coins that get gigantic profits are not traded on those kind of exchanges. They are traded on much smaller insider platforms that are barely known. And I can tell you what those super secret exchanges are and why they are so profitable. And another super important thing are the right information sources. The point is, the internet is gigantic. There are hundreds and hundreds of YouTube channels, blogs, pages, and much more. And there are also market makers and influencers. For example, Elon Musk, he is not a crypto guy, but the moment he recommended Dogecoin, it went through the roof, to the moon, so to say. But why did he recommend it? Where did he hear it from? He didn't hear it from newspapers. And believe me, he is listening to someone. But you have to know who, and you have to react before he is reacting. This is really, really important. And these are only 2 of the 7 steps you have to follow in order to be successful in crypto. And if you want to know all of these steps in much more detail, and if you want to have a comprehensive checklist, here's what you should do. There is a link below this video. Click on this link and you will get the opportunity to subscribe to my channel. Click on the link and you will see a video where I explain the next steps. So see you soon. Click on the link now. I'll see you there.